All right. All right. Okay, awesome. Hi, how's it going, everyone? Haven't really done a stream before. This should be really interesting. So, title is pretty self-explanatory. Explanatory. Sorry. Um, okay. All right. Sorry. Should be getting. Okay. Should be streaming to Facebook now. Awesome. So, title is pretty self-explanatory. We have a severe weather threat on uh, November 4th, which is tomorrow. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in the stream, but first, let me shut the door real quick. Okay. So, awesome. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of go over our severe weather threat. I have COD Meteorology up here. This is College of DuPage in Illinois. And they have a really good website, I think. And we're just going to go over some models here real quick. Let me get them up and ready to go. Get one more here for the Euro. Alright, so the National Weather Service has issued a enhanced risk for severe weather across the Deep South. This includes portions of North Texas, Central Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, um, southwestern Arkansas, and northwestern Louisiana. It is an enhanced risk, but I believe that there may be an upgrade at 1 a.m. or I guess 2 a.m. here. So I believe there is going to be an upgrade to a moderate. I cannot stress this enough. We are looking at a very significant severe weather outbreak. I would not be surprised if there was a tornado outbreak tomorrow. So keep that in mind. So essentially, what is happening is a large trough is pushing in and is kind of setting up right now. In fact, as we speak, there is a severe weather threat, kind of a little avocado threat here across the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma and southern Kansas. And we could be seeing some overnight spin up tornadoes. Doesn't really look all that great, honestly. I thought this was going to be the day to chase, but it's turning out that Friday is going to be the big chase day. A lot of chasers are heading down. Reed Timmer is coming down to Texas, so big day ahead. Yeah, it's going to be a big day tomorrow. So let me kind of go over what we've got going on here. Let's go to our surface base cape. So right now we already have some cape, some moisture pushing in. In fact, let me go to dew point temp. That's a good way. So as we are speaking right now, we have moisture kind of pushing up towards North Texas from the Gulf of Mexico, and is kind of settling over Texas right now. If you go outside, it's going to feel kind of muggy. If you live up in North Texas, especially if you live in the DFW area, it's going to feel pretty muggy, unseasonably muggy, and it's also really, really warm outside. In fact, it's in the lower 70s as we speak. And tomorrow it's supposed to get up to about 75, which late season outbreaks like this, especially when we were talking about like the second season, whenever we're talking about like November, October, and we're seeing these big weather events, it doesn't take as much moisture and as much heating to really get storms going. You really only need about like 80 typically in the spring to get these storms going, but it's lower than that in November and October, especially, and the same goes for our dew point or our moisture in the atmosphere. It really doesn't take much then either. Um, it really only need about 50 to 60 to get storms at all. And we are going to be seeing dew points into the 70s, especially. We're going to have a nice push of moisture, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but you can see a very distinct dry line set up here, and just a really nice triple point over southern Oklahoma in North Texas. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So yeah, we've got a lot of moisture coming in right now and pushing up. We also have, let me go to our, interesting, it does not have, okay, I guess we're just going to use this model. Right now we have a large trough, a big honkin' trough setting up right now as we speak. This is going to be fueling tonight's severe weather event across the panhandle of Texas, and then tomorrow it's supposed to get particularly stronger and push towards northern Texas and Oklahoma. So yeah, big fat trough is moving in, and we have a lot of moisture moving up, a lot of shear pushing in. It's essentially just setting up to be a very significant day, to say the least. So let's take a look at our CAPE. This is our measure of energy in the atmosphere. And as you can see, right as we get into about midday, let me pull up our Zulu time chart real quick so I can kind of show you. This is something, so the National Weather Service and these model pages use UTC or Zulu time, and it's a little bit hard to convert. I still haven't fully gotten it down, but we are in Central Daylight Time, so at 17Z it will be 12 o'clock, and you can see that there's tons of CAPE, tons of energy moving in right about that time. You'll also notice this funny little thing right here, this kind of like hatched area that's covering our CAPE is the cap, and it just goes away right about midday. It just goes away, which means these storms are just going to immediately fire, and there's nothing to stop them from just going absolutely nuts tomorrow. And I think that they will, and I'll get into that more. But yeah, lots of energy in the atmosphere tomorrow. We are looking at upwards like 2,000 CAPE. It's pretty crazy, honestly. And I don't know why. Forecast sounding is not available for this model. Okay, interesting. So yeah, let's take a look at our supercell composite. And as you can see, overnight up here in the panhandle of Texas, seeing a lot of those oranges and reds. We could be seeing some, and you know what, I'll just show you simulated reflectivity. We could be seeing some pop-up thunderstorms here and there. Some of these could be tornado producers. Most of these guys are just going to be producing damaging winds and hail. Those are the main threats tonight, but there's the possibility for a brief tornado. Not a major threat, and they're just going to be kind of chugging off to the northeast into Kansas. If you are up in that area and chasing there, you might see kind of a brief tornado, but given how messy this mode looks, it looks like it could be hard to see, and it's going to be in the middle of the night. This is going to be about 10 Z's, so that's going to be like 5 in the morning that we could be seeing these storms pushing in, and they'll really get going probably in the next couple of hours. It's 8 o'clock here in DFW, so about 1 a.m. is when these storms really start to fire, and down here in Texas is when they really get going, but yeah. So, and then we get to tomorrow, and I'll talk more about that in just a second, but yeah. Let's go back to our supercell composite. Start to get to tomorrow. Daybreak comes around 1700. That is our midday, and things just explode. Seeing a lot of those reds and oranges here. This is where the tornado outbreak, at least I believe there might be a tornado outbreak tomorrow, kind of comes into play. We are seeing very significant tornado parameters. Actually, let me talk about these two products real quick. So supercell composite and super significant tornado parameters takes a bunch of these parameters, are CAPE in the atmosphere, our helicity, and all of this technical stuff, and kind of throws it into one product. So it'll basically tells you like Okay, if there is going to be a tornado, here is where the best conditions are going to be in play, and this is where like most likely a tornado would be. So you really want to, if you're looking for tornadoes tomorrow, you're really going to want to target east of the metro, because that's where a lot of these reds and oranges are kind of hanging out. And there's just an explosion, and it kind of coincides with that push of energy, that push of moisture up north. It's really all it needs to get going. You don't have a ton of cape here in the morning hours, and then right as the daytime heating sets in, right around midday, these storms just fire. So let's take a look at our helicity real quick. So these are going to be the updrafts. These are like essentially how strong our updrafts are, and if you have stronger updrafts, you have the better possibility for hail and tornadoes. So yeah, we have a couple of areas, a couple of stronger cells up here in the mid early morning hours up in Oklahoma. Whenever everyone is kind of waking up, you'll see a couple of these. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, See a couple of stronger storms. This is where those brief tornadoes might come into play. Start seeing those reds and even those, or sorry, those yellows and oranges start getting a better possibility for large hail and damaging winds. And then as we get into the morning hours, these storms just begin to explode. 1700 is our initiation time, it looks like right now. That is when these storms are going to begin to start initiating in DFW, and they just really get going. I mean, look at that. Look at those tracks. So, let's talk about what's potentially what's going to happen. And keep in mind, this is just one model. We're going to be going over several models. We're going to be going over this. We're going to be going over the NAM 3K, the North American model, the 3K model. We're going to be going over the regular North American model, and we're going to be going over the global forecasting system as well as the Euro. And then we'll just kind of go from there. So, 1700 is when we start seeing a little bit of initiation west of Dallas-Fort Worth, mostly along I-35 and places east. And then right as you get to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, unfortunately right around rush hour is when these storms really blow up. I mean, they just go nuts. And they quickly upscale growth. These are going to be messy modes, high precipitation storms. You're not really going to see much. Any tornadoes that do touch the ground are likely going to be rain wrapped, and they're moving over pretty rough territory. We're talking lots of trees and stuff like that. And I mean, they just really get going. And then as soon as they start to get east on towards into Arkansas and Louisiana, it starts forming a line segment. So these start to go quickly from discrete supercells into linear supercells, and then they just go nuts. And as they push on into Mississippi, it'll kind of fall apart, but you'll still have the possibility for some strong storms here and there. Maybe some embedded severe storms. But it also looks pretty messy, especially out ahead of it, so that may help kind of tamper down the severe weather threat in Mississippi and Alabama as this convective line moves through. So let's go over the NAM model. So this is the NAM 3K, a little bit more higher resolution, and it's pretty much the same. In fact, it's a little bit of a different story. So you do have some cells popping out ahead. These are prefrontal supercells. That's what we're talking about here. Prefrontal supercells would be these. They're popping out, as the name implies, ahead of the front, which is right about here. So you have a couple of those, but they're not really getting going. In fact, the show, according to the NAM 3K model, is a linear mode. So it starts west of the metro, and then it just pushes east and forms into a nasty segment. I mean, these are going to be some ugly spin-ups. Let's take a look at our helicity here, and yeah, lots of spin-ups up and down the line. Pretty much this whole line could be at a threat for, some pretty strong spin-up tornadoes here and there. And it pushes off to the east, and a little bit less storms out ahead of it, but yeah, still kind of weak as it pushes into Mississippi, but you could still see a strong storm here or there. And this is the NAM model. And yeah, pretty much the same story. Heavy, heavy line. If you're looking to get some good storms today, kind of positioning out here towards Sulphur Springs, Paris, really west of Texarkana and the Arla-Tex territories where that show is going to be. That's when the line will kind of be beginning to mature. and so you'll want to target there. GFS, so here we kind of start to get into less, I don't know, this isn't so much about resolution, it's just kind of a big blob, but more of the same story, really not many storms popping out ahead of this thing, and it really just goes linear. And the Euro, I forget the Euro does not have precipitation on this. So, let's talk about tomorrow. So, oh, bumped my camera there. Whoops. Okay, so, scattered strong to severe thunderstorms Friday around noon. These are going to be those prefrontal cells, and they're really going to start initiating along I-35 here. So let me pull up maps real quick, and hopefully I don't dox myself here. Okay, awesome. So, really going to be initiating along I-35 here, Hillsborough, Waco, and Alvarado, on towards Corsicana, Waxahachie, and Thornton. These areas are going to be kind of the initial area where these storms are going to fire, and then they'll start pushing east. Currently, my target area for tomorrow's chase is going to be like Commerce, Emory, Wills Point, Kaufman, this kind of area, because it'll be more downstream. These storms will have matured a little bit more, and hopefully they'll be tornado producers. So, but I'll talk a little bit more about tomorrow's chase later on. So, initially strong to severe thunderstorms, and then they quickly upscale into a heavy line segment, as you can kind of see right here. And then they just push off to the east, and then we have a lot of cooler winds on the backside of it, and it's going to be dry, very, very dry. As we get past these storms here, as they push west, it gets really, really dry. We only have 41 dew points here, 30s into the teens as you get further west, and that's just not ideal. That's just really not ideal. Doesn't surprise me considering, it's November, and really starts to dry out, and that's pretty much the same story. So that front will kind of push through. A lot of the timing with these storms depend on the front. So if this front is much slower, we will initially see more scattered thunderstorms, more chance for some strong supercells, and then as we get into the late evening hours, as that front begins to catch up, they're going to upscale growth into a line segment. It'll be a squall line, probably in the evening, and it'll just be a really nasty line segment. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're talking about here. Alright, let's go over the individual threats. So, like I said, we have an enhanced risk. The tornado threat is all modes are possible. I should mention that now. All modes are possible. So we are looking at a tornado threat, a 10% hatched risk here. That is what those lines are. And then over these blobs here, those are cities. In fact, let me turn those off. So, actually, let me keep the cities up. This is population centers. Tornado threat, we are looking at that 10% hatch risk, and that means significant severe. So essentially what that means is you could see the potential for EF2 to EF5 tornadoes. Essentially significant tornadoes are EF2 and above, up to EF5. We have a 10% risk east of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area for seeing a tornado. And then as you get further west, it gets less and less. But most of this positioning is based off of the dry line. Obviously, as you get further east of the dry line, we are talking about more moisture, more stuff for these storms to work with, and so, yeah. Wind and hail are also pretty significant. Damaging winds seems to be the main mode for these storms, especially as they kind of upscale into a line segment. We will be talking about damaging wind gusts more than tornadoes or hail, but we still have that 15% chance. These are going to be high precipitation storms, so I'm not exactly sure what the hail risk is going to be looking like. My guess is not going to be pretty great, but it's also not going to be super bad. So, yeah. Tomorrow's chase. I will be obviously chasing tomorrow. I can't turn down a good November chase, especially one that is so volatile like this. So currently my target area is just kind of east, like just generally east of Dallas-Fort Worth. I want to be downstream of these storms because they're going to be kind of moving. Let's keep in mind this. I'm just defaulting to the herd. They are moving kind of in the northwest direction, and then they upscale growth. So kind of targeting like initially east of Dallas seems to be the play. And then probably just kind of like staying ahead of the line. Might be finishing out towards Longview and Mount Pleasant, east of Tyler, and just kind of positioning, waiting for the line to move over. It really just depends on what these storms do tomorrow. So, but I want to stay kind of in this area out of these trees, because you can see like a lot of these darker greens. That's trees, lots of trees. I don't like chasing in trees. They scare the crap out of me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Pay attention to the warnings. Tomorrow is going to be a very significant day. Don't be driving on the roads around midday, like around afternoon. You do not want to be caught out in these. In fact, I would recommend either not doing stuff at all or avoiding highways. Because whenever rain happens in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, everybody suddenly forgets how to drive. And then on top of that, now you have severe weather and damaging wind gusts, and it's just not great. Whenever you have millions of people living in a densely populated area, and everybody's all trying to get home before the storms get bad and all of that stuff, everyone just kind of drives terribly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about that. Thanks for